The fact that Jesus shows up in our darkest places, to reveal the depths of his love and what he has to offer is just mind-blowing to me. So I think for our stories, right, like we grew up in church.
Both of us,
Our parents took us to church all the time. They were prayer warriors. I specifically grew up as a missionary kid. And yet, though I had real encounters with Jesus, right, like yourself, my heart just kept growing more and more distant from God.
There was something God was stirring in me as a young kid, even through my parents raising me in the church. But there was just this pull from the world of wanting to be cool, wanting to fit in, wanting to be popular, that I just never engaged in it into my teens and up through high school, and it led me down a bad path.
There was a moment in 1998 that was a defining moment for me in my life. My family heard the words that forever changed us and to this day, and it was that your mom has cancer. And a handful of months later, we buried her, And at that point, I shook my little fist at God, and I took off, and I created a dark 10-year existence in my life. So I opened up to drugs, searching for something that would fill that void, something that would fill that pain inside my heart. And so I'll never forget one night at a culminating point of my life where the pain had just gotten so real. And in the middle of the night, I was awoken by this presence in my room. And I'll never forget this light coming from this door that was so bright. It shone into that darkness, and I instantly, though I was not walking with God, though I was not in the Word, I wasn't praying, I was not fellowshipping with the Lord at all, I instantly sat straight up, and my hands went straight up, and I began to worship. I belonged in that presence. I belonged with Him.
I know for me, I have defining moments because of choices I made, just like your story. I would say for me, I wouldn't say I knew God was real. I was searching for him. I wanted him to be real, but I wasn't sure. Ended up getting 2 DUIs before I was 21. Ended up getting kicked out of the military, out of the Air Force after 3 years because I couldn't stop smoking pot, and I turned to opiates, Oxycontin and heroin, and it got really bad from there. Till one night my mom and sister had just been really praying for me and praying, and I found myself in a basement, kind of just like your story. It's crazy how sin takes us to the same dark places. There's only one place sin takes us, and it's death, and that's where I was one night, strung out on a lot of drugs, not sure if I was gonna live anymore. And I just remember praying that night, and my heart beating so fast, and saying, God, if you will let me wake up tomorrow, I will go to this program called Teen Challenge that my mom had just said to me the day before, like, please go to this program called Teen Challenge, please go. And it was the next morning that I woke up, I packed all my stuff, I hurt and left, didn't tell anybody. Get there, and I'm withdrawing really bad off of heroin. First day withdrawal, sick. It's crazy, in our darkest moments, when we've been the worst of the worst, all of a sudden God's grace shows up when we've so undeserved it. And in that moment, this guy asked if he could pray for me, and I was like, I don't need prayer, I don't need the religious stuff right now. Like, I'm withdrawing from drugs, so I probably need some more drugs or something to get me off that help me from these withdrawals. And he said, I'm gonna pray for you anyways. And he prayed, and I was instantly healed. I know you came in a month after that in the Teen Challenge, and so, but that was just a really cool moment in time that was defining, that forever changed the course of my life, where God showed up and met me when I least deserved it.
I know you'll agree with me on this one, Andy, but it was the presence of Jesus, right, that did the most good for my heart. It took my parents' religious experience or their beliefs, and it all of a sudden, I met their Jesus, the one that I couldn't understand how they worshiped him. But when I went to Teen Challenge and I finally had an encounter with this same Jesus that my mom was worshiping, it all clicked and it all made sense.
We don't clean ourselves up.
Right.
He does. And so you can go share the message with anybody. You can come to an altar and worship. You can be used by God, but not buy into that lie that you're not good enough, so you can't go and follow Jesus right now. Jesus is in the business of inviting sinners to follow him in their current state, right? Just the way they are. It's the story of, hey, you don't have to get it all cleaned up first and then come after me. Take that first step.